Hello friends, how are you all? So I hope you all are going great and doing great in your studies as well. So what about the preparations? How the preparations are going? How are you managing your studies? Are you maintaining a proper schedule? So you need to have a proper schedule along with all your homework done properly. So that is what you need to do the entire year in order to get very good marks in your boards, in your internal tests that are happening in your schools. So you need to be very focused. So what we were discussing in the last class, a very interesting topic we have discussed in the last class was something about, we have done the neurologically active drugs, which are nothing but the tranquilizers as well as the analgesics. So we were discussing about the analgesics in the last class. Also, we had slightly touched the topic of antimicrobials. So I hope you all have revised the structures along with that. So basically what we were discussing in the analgesics was, analgesic is nothing but the painkillers that we have, and these are divided into two categories. One is non-narcotics, that means non-addictive, and the other is the narcotics, that means the addictive drugs. Drugs, nothing but the medicines that we have got, or in technical terms the chemicals, the chemicals that are used to make the medicines. So basically under the category of non-narcotic, what all are included? Antidepressants, some of the anti-anxiety pills which people take, and anti-stress pills that doctors recommend. So all those categories such as Equinil we have discussed, Luminal we have discussed, Verinal we have discussed. So all of these are included under the category of analgesics. These are painkillers as well as they uplift your mood, they are antidepressants. And what about the narcotic ones? So basically those are nothing but the layman what calls it as a drug. What kind of a drug? Heroin, codeine, nicotine. These are some of the drugs which are used, and when prescribed in proper amounts, those drugs can be very helpful to treat your condition. That means although they are sleep inducing, but they are a very good class of painkillers. So I hope you all have revised those and along with the structures, which are very important. So what we were on to was the antimicrobials. What are antimicrobials? Related to the microorganisms, the bacteria, the fungi, the viruses which are around us, which are on our bodies, which are inside our bodies. All of those microorganisms are included under microbes. They can be, in short I can say, those are microbes. So what actually was the discovery behind the antimicrobials? What was the first antimicrobial, or I can say antibacterial, which was discovered? So in the earlier times, the scientist named Paul Ehrlich, he discovered a medicine which is known as salvarsan. So that was actually what kind of a medicine? So here we are discussing the antimicrobials. So under this category, the very first medicine that was discovered was salvarsan. So that was salvarsan, containing a very toxic substance, very toxic element, that is nothing but the arsenic. So it had got arsenic and a structure something like this, having this very group. Along with the phenyl groups which had OH and NH2. I am just drawing it in short in order to make you understand, in order to give you a proper idea. Those who have not followed up the previous lecture will now get the idea. So the first medicine that was discovered was salvarsan, and next was another kind of modification in this. Why? Because although it killed the bacteria, although it actually killed the microorganism or inhibited its growth, but what happened was this arsenic was very toxic to human beings. Arsenic, elements like arsenic, mercury, cadmium, these are actually very toxic elements within the periodic table. So here some of the elements are arsenic, cadmium, mercury. in very minute amounts, very small amounts, these elements are also present in the water we drink. So basically what is happening is, in some areas where the arsenic percentage is more within the water, we get arsenic toxicity and we can develop various diseases related to that. So basically these very elements from the periodic table are toxic to human beings. So this medicine was although very effective, but not that effective because it in turn affected the human beings as well. So what it does was, the scientist Paul Ehrlich, so actually he was also studying about the azo dyes. So azo dye had contained a structure which resembled that of the salvarsan. So he got into the research and started actually finding a compound which is actually related to the azo dye and is effective in killing the bacteria, binding with the bacteria, and is also non-toxic to the human beings. So finally he found out that kind of a compound which was Prontosil. So that was the compound which was found by the scientists. That was the first antibacterial that was found. This is the first antibacterial. So I hope you all are following up. Antibacterial. So let me just write that. So that was the first antibacterial that was discovered, a revolutionary product, and from this Prontosil, what happened, we got the discovery of sulfa drugs. So there was a group present in the Prontosil which is sulfanilamide, that is SO2, NH2, and over here, so that was the group that was present in the Prontosil. Nothing but an azo dye, but having different kinds of group present. So that was the Prontosil, and it had a group which is known as sulfanilamide, that is sulfanylamide. And this very group then further led to the discovery of, it compelled the scientists to grow more and more within this area, to have a research more and more onto this topic, developing sulfa drugs. So there came the discovery of sulfa drugs, which were not toxic to the human beings, but beneficial in killing the bacteria and eliminating all the infections. So what was happening was, sulfa drugs actually contained what kind of a structure? Again, what we have discussed, the sulfanilamide. So that kind of a structure was contained within the sulfa drugs, and the most effective till now is sulfapyridine. So that is a medicine which is a well-known medicine, antibacterial. This is sulfapyridine. So I hope that is very clear to you and you all are following up. So now let's move on to the discovery of some more antibiotics, some more antibacterials, and what is actually happening, what is the criteria of working of these antibacterials. So basically, how does the antibacterial works? That is the main question over here. So the question is, how does antibacterial work? How does? Definitely in killing the bacteria or maybe inhibiting its growth. So actually what is happened whenever a bacteria is onto my skin, let's just say. So it start eating the cells, it start eating the surroundings whenever it is on a host. So that is, what is a host? Actually which is serving as a food platter. So it is serving as a food platter for that bacteria, and the bacteria starts eating that food. What happens is, it starts eating, it starts excreting out. What is that excretion? You may be having some kind of body odor. You may be developing body odor within your armpits. What is that odor? That is due to the bacteria which is present in your armpits, and it excretes out the material which is that much of stinky. So basically that is what the bacteria does. It starts eating, it starts growing its colony. So that is what the metabolic process of bacteria is, or I can say in the terms of microorganisms. So basically microorganisms, they feed on the host, they actually stick onto the host, they grow their whole colony and they start infecting the area. Infecting means it starts eating up that area. So that is how the bacteria or the microorganisms work. They actually start growing more and more. The division is so fast, the multiplication is so fast that you can't even imagine. So what happens is, I need to now kill this whole colony of bacteria which has grown on my skin. So how does it take place? What actually the medicines do? The medicines actually, first thing is they can kill the bacteria, that is the first thing, or they can stop their growth. Either of the two will be beneficial for a bacterial stoppage, that means will be serving as antibacterial. So basically what happens is, I have got two functions of antibacterial here. One is bactericidal, that is bactericidal. Next is bacteriostatic. So you need to understand this very properly. What is bactericidal and what is bacteriostatic? I have just taken up very simple terms. If you try to break down these terms, you will get to know what I am talking about. So here bacteria, we all know that is the microorganism we are concerned of. And what is cidal? Cidal means killing of something. Suicidal, so that if you can correlate with it, so that is cidal. Cidal means killing of something. So basically this is killing of microorganisms. And static means, one is static, other is dynamic. Static means fixed onto one position, not moving anywhere. And it can be used in the terms of not position, but a process, fixing a process, stopping a process, preventing a process to happen. So that is what we are doing over here. Static means stopping of the bacterial growth. So these are the two functions, and one more I would like to discuss later on. So most prominently, these are the two functions that what antibacterial does. Antibacterial, nothing but the drugs, nothing but the medicines. So these are the drugs or the medicines that I am talking about. They actually, first of all, they may kill the bacteria. So this is killing of bacteria, or I can say what? The microorganisms in general. So it would be microorganisms. So that is one thing it does. The second thing is stopping their growth. So second thing is stopping or preventing the growth of bacteria, of microorganisms. So preventing the growth of the microorganisms, that is one thing. Also what? Here the growth has been prevented. How? By intervening within the metabolic process. So how does the growth is prevented? That is another question here. So basically the growth of the microorganisms is prevented by stopping their metabolic process. What is the metabolic process? They are eating, they are multiplying, they are excreting out. That is what the metabolic process is. That is what is happening in our body as well. We are eating, we are growing, we are multiplying, and we are excreting out. So that is what the metabolic process of a body is. So basically, how the growth of bacteria, or in general if I talk about microorganisms, is prevented. So that is the main question over here. How the growth of bacteria? Basically stopping the metabolic process. So that is preventing, that could be one word, stopping could be one word, and also intervening, that means interrupting, intervening the metabolic process of microorganisms. So that is what we are concerned about, that is what we need to do, we need to stop their growth in order to avoid the infection. So here, in order to avoid infection, so I hope that is very well clear to you. So basically these are the two works that antibacterial does, and the another work that I was talking about is actually increasing the immunity of the body, that is also making our body resistant to the bacteria. So that is also one thing that these antibacterials does. So that is one first process. This is the second as well as the third is providing immunity, or I can say providing us resistance. Immunity or resistance is one and the same thing. Excuse me. So providing immunity or resistance to our body against microorganisms causing infections. I can write as causing infections. So I hope that is very well clear to you over here. So what we have done so far is we have kind of judged the activity of antibacterials or antimicrobials, I can say. So now we get the definition of antibiotics from over here. So what is the definition of antibiotics? What are antibiotics basically? So again, if I break down the word, I'll get the meaning of antibiotics here. Anti means, that means against something. So that is against. Biotics means, biotics means, bio means life. That means against life. That means killing the microorganisms. That was what antibiotics does. So this is bio means life. Stopping the life or against the life. So here what it does is, the class of drugs, I am writing the proper definition for it. The class of drugs, that is I am talking about the antibiotics, which is produced partially or completely, partially or completely via chemical synthesis, via chemical synthesis, and are capable of killing and are capable of killing, or I can say stopping the growth of microorganisms. the growth of stopping the growth of microorganisms are known as nothing but the antibiotics. So, I hope that is very well clear to you. Here killing would be focused because I am talking about the antibiotics. Most of them will destroy, will kill the microorganisms, and that is what the purpose of antibiotics, the purpose of antimicrobials. Antimicrobials is nothing but a general term. In that term I can include antibiotics, in that term I can include antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral, antiparasitic, any of those. So, antimicrobial is a general one, and we have got a particular, that is antibiotic, which actually tries to kill the bacteria first. It may be stopping the growth as well, but most prominently it does is killing the bacteria. So, that is what it is. Now, let us move on to the invention of the first antibiotic. That is a very important topic over here. So, again there was a scientist, he developed penicillin. So, what is penicillin? You must have heard about the bacteria Penicillium fungus. So, basically there was a scientist named Alexander Fleming. So, actually he was studying about the bacteria, he was studying about fungi, everything, all of these microorganisms. So, what he does is, he actually tried to produce another kind of a medicine. So, basically Penicillium fungus, that was a microorganism. So, this is microorganism. So, when he studied this microorganism, what it does was, it produced a very important chemical. So, some of the microorganisms, or I can say in most of the cases what we do is, we actually use the microorganisms in order to actually kill them. How can we do that? So, basically the microorganisms such as molds, fungi or bacteria, these microorganisms, they actually produce, they actually secrete out some chemical substances which can be used in order to kill them. So, basically they are creating their death. So, what is happening is, Penicillium fungus was the microorganism, he produced a chemical known as, it produced a chemical substance known as penicillin. So, that was a revolution, real revolution, what we known as, that was the antibiotic which was produced. So, this was the antibiotic can be used against the bacteria, can be used to kill microorganisms. So, basically this was the real revolution. Around 1947 this was produced. So, basically penicillin is the medicine that was the first antibiotic introduced by Alexander Fleming. So, he did a very great work. So, what is the purpose of penicillin, what it does? So, basically penicillin is first of all an antibiotic. So, it is an antibiotic, I am again writing it down. So, it has got a varieties, it has got two varieties, one is penicillin G, one is penicillin G, and the other is penicillin V. So, these are the two varieties. Here penicillin G is actually treating some of the conditions, not all, but whereas penicillin V, or I can say penicillin in general, is treating a wide range of diseases. So here mostly they are concerned of tuberculosis. They are used for the treatment of tuberculosis. So that is the function of penicillin. And what do we have under the category? From the discovery of penicillin, what started was again a revolution of more and more researches in this area to develop all the kinds of antibiotics which are possible, to actually have some kind of mixture of medicines, and in order to get a new medicine, that is an antibiotic. So that was the kind of research which started at that time, and it developed so many kind of bactericidal as well as the bacteriostatic medicines. So let us just have a look on those kind of medicines as well. Now, so what discovered was bactericidal. We have discussed what are these medicines, as well as bacteriostatic. So under this category of bactericidal, we had got penicillin, it kills the bacteria, antibiotic it is. I had got streptomycin, as well as what? I had got ofloxacin. And what about the bacteriostatic? That means stopping the growth. So just try to think upon it and note this down, then I will be taking up all the terms under the category of bacteriostatic. So here, have you given it a thought? What all can be included in bacteriostatic? Have you heard of some of the chemicals, some of the drugs? So one is very popular, chloramphenicol. That is one. Second, erythromycin. Third can be tetracycline. You might not have heard about these, but chloramphenicol is one of the popular. So this is tetracycline. So that is all what is included under the category of bactericidal and bacteriostatic. And these are nothing but the types of antibiotics that we have. So these are so I hope that is very well clear to you. Now let's just move on to the structures of some of these. I am not discussing all of these. So just take a sigh of relief, and we are going to discuss the structures for 3 only. Most prominently, the 2 are important. So first is for the penicillin itself. So that is the general structure that I am going to draw over here. Number 1, penicillin. What kind of a structure is it? So it is, so just try to draw with me. Kind of an interesting structure here. Hydrogens attached, and what do I have? I have got over here is so that is what we have in the category of penicillin. So this is a general structure. For penicillin. Now what is penicillin G and penicillin V? So one is penicillin G. So that is nothing but benzyl penicillin. So that is benzyl penicillin. So let me just draw that. What is benzyl penicillin? Benzyl attached instead of this R group. So here the specific thing is the R group is C6H5CH2. That is what benzyl actually is. So I need to attach this very group over here and we get what? Penicillin G. So I hope that's very well clear to you. Let's move on to the second one is penicillin V. What do I have over here? I have got R again. The R over here will be C6H5OCH2. This is phenoxymethyl penicillin. So that is phenoxymethyl penicillin. So you need to have a proper idea of this very structure. This is very, very important. The general most prominently. The general structure for penicillin is important. Now what do I have? So I hope you can already attach these groups over here and just try to have the structures for penicillin G and penicillin V. I am not spoon feeding you. So here it's for the chloramphenicol. Let's have a structure for it. So that is chloramphenicol. What do I have over here? In the structure, NO2 attached along with CH, now OH. So that is what is chloramphenicol. That is chloramphenicol. Okay, I need to represent a CO in between here. So that is the complete structure for chloramphenicol. I hope you all can practice it as many times as you want in order to remember the structure. Now what we are left with? We are done penicillin, we are done chloramphenicol. Let's move on to the structure for ofloxacin. So ofloxacin is actually an antibiotic which is very popular these days, and what it does is it actually kill a range of bacteria. That means not only one, but it is actually acting upon a variety of bacteria. So that is what is the property of ofloxacin. So let's move on to the structure. It has got a typical kind of a structure here. This along with methyl, a double bond, and that is what the structure for ofloxacin is. I am missing out one methyl over here. That is the complete structure, a slight typical one, but once you get the practice of it, you are able to draw it properly. So that is ofloxacin. Now from this ofloxacin, I would like to introduce one more topic under this category. That is what? That is actually the broad spectrum of antibiotics and the limited spectrum of antibiotics. What is actually this? So I hope you all have drawn the structures over here. Let me just rub this off. that is broad spectrum antibiotics that is the first. What is the broad spectrum? Broad spectrum is, I am talking about in the terms of a range of bacteria. So that is basically range of, or I can say the list of bacteria, list of microorganisms, to be in general microorganisms. So those antibiotics which are actually acting upon multiple number of microorganisms, wide range of microorganisms, they are actually affecting their either the growth or maybe killing them. So those antibiotics are included under the category of broad spectrum antibiotics. So what are those? Antibiotics which are acting on wide range of microorganisms such as what? So now microorganisms could be multiple types and these antibiotics are actually acting upon them. Acting means they may be killing them or they may be preventing their growth. So these are the two functions that they might be doing. What are the examples over here included? So as I told you, one of the examples is ofloxacin. So one of the examples is ofloxacin. And the second one is, we have done this already, that is chloramphenicol. So that is chloramphenicol. So I hope you all are aware of it. Now what do we have? Another category of antibiotics. One was this, the other is the limited spectrum of antibiotics. Limited spectrum, that means acting on a particular microorganisms. Antibiotics acting on a particular microorganism. So I hope these two things are very well clear to you. Now what do you need to do? You need to have a perfect example for this. So actually that very example we have already did in this session. You need to find out, just try to open your books or Google it, whatever you want. You need to have the answer for this very question, that what all antibiotics are included under the category of limited spectrum and what all are the diseases which are treated by them. And over here, as well as in the case of ofloxacin and chloramphenicol, what are actually their functions, what kind of diseases are they are treating, because I have talked about the killing or preventing the growth of the microorganisms. But actually what is happening in our body, what kind of a disease is developed by those microorganisms, that is the point of actually having the antibiotic. So you need to find out the answers to these questions. In the next session, I'll be discussing the answers, as well as I'll be starting off with another class of drugs that is very, very popular. We all use in our daily lives, that is the antiseptics as well as the disinfectants. So till then, have a good day and just take care.